somebody goes speaks in front of a place, they introduce him. He has a degree from here, I have a degree from nothing. I do know I'm Jewish. How do you know that? First of all, I got a number on my arm. Number two, the Pollack says, Yerusha Nesati Lachem. And you know, for Yerusha, if you don't have a descendant, the first stage, it goes back even to Avraham Avinu. I inherited Avraham Avinu's Yerusha. How do I? Avraham Avinu was saved from Kivshin Shalish. I was also saved from that. And Avraham Avinu had to Lechlachem, Atzechem, Aladetchem. Do you know what I'm talking about? I also had to move from where I was born and from what. Avraham Avinu had two sons, I also had two sons. I have two Yitzchaks. Avraham Avinu had one Ishmael. And also, the Pollack says by the end, Avraham Zukim Buba Yuma, Bakoil Rasha says, Bakoil Bamatri Ben. That's the only thing I have in my life is my children. I have nothing else. I have no clothes, and I don't need nothing. No. So now you want to know who, so you know for sure I'm Jewish. You know. So now I could talk to you. I was born in 1931. I had to go back to my hometown to get my birth certificate. And I remember as a child, I had an older brother who didn't make it, that we were all Hasidim by us. Everybody was Hasidish. I had payers and everybody had a Shteimel Shabbos. It was a different world. We lived in a little village. Maybe we had 100 Jewish families. And our family, the Vegh family, were the richest people in town. That doesn't mean nothing. Not only that thing. We didn't have no running water in the house. We didn't have no bathroom. We didn't have no electricity. We had nothing, but we had a shiksa working in the house because you couldn't buy it. It didn't exist. So what did they have? They had fields, they had orchards. You made money buying another field. It's nothing but nothing. So then I remember I don't know the dates, when the Hungarians took that piece of dirt back from the Czechs. We had to go out to the main road. That was the order to greet the Hungarian army. They didn't come in with machinery like American troops. And we all had pays, and these animals went down and pulled our pays. And then a bit later, they started to enforce different gazetas on the first of all, you had to produce a citizenship, Hungarian citizenship. We could get it. Many were born in Poland and Galicia, they couldn't get it. So all these people who they couldn't get, they deported back to Galicia, the other side of the border. Kalamai, Chotkiv, Lemberg. That, I think, was in 1941 or 40. The second transport also came in later, but my father paid off and they did release it. But we heard rumors that the Ukrainians, the Germans, are killing thousands of innocent Jews in the other side. But life went on, nobody would believe it. I mean, you could believe a lot of things. Somebody steals, somebody breaks, somebody robs a bank, but those killing women and children and old people, it's not a normal thing. And then my father was drafted. In Hungary, the Jews were drafted. The difference was they were not drafted to the army. They were drafted for forced labor, and they had a yellow band on it in civilian clothes. The first time he went to Minkach, the second time when we walked into the train, he cried, and we never saw it. When was shipped out to Ukraine, he dropped out 2 letters. One to me, one to my older brother. And the letter precisely said, nobody could help me, but you and your brother, if you'll daven, say Tillim, and fast every Monday and Thursday. That letter had a great impact on my life. Because when I was liberated from camp, I needed religion like somebody needs a hole in their head. But didn't care for it, didn't want it, and there was no feeling. Then as a traveled, floating around back and forth, I was only a 14-year-old kid, urge came to me. My father left a sweet tooth in my mouth. What can I do for that man? I can't buy him no suit, no nothing. Maybe I should try and make him happy that he wanted his kids to learn. So I started back to go a little bit to religion. But let's go then. Then one time the Germans walked into Hungary. We heard about it. Don't forget, we didn't have no newspaper. We didn't have no electricity for a radio. But we did have a radio one time with 6 big batteries operated. You know, years ago these radios had tubes. Each of the tubes need light. Then they confiscate all that juice, were not allowed to have it. So we really didn't know what's happening, except Budapest was 12 hours away by train. And then further came out, all Jews have to report to the public school. There was 2 schools in our village. One was Jewish kids. The Jewish kids had to learn Hungarian. And the other one was for the Goyim, and they are Romanian, and they were too dumb to learn another language, so they spoke them in Romanian. We had to report to that school, and everyone who reported it had to bring some valuable, candlestick, silver, and they wrote it down on a piece of paper. Then our own horse and wagon, with our own driver, the Goy, took us to the ghetto about 7, 8 miles away. And that ghetto was packed with people from all over the surrounding. You gotta make like, how you call it, like a county. From the whole county of their area, all dumped them in. People slept on roofs, people happened. We had an uncle there, my father's brother, and he had a big house, and we lived in that house. Also remember, my uncle was one of the leaders of the community from that town, and this is what the Hungarians did. They took all the Jewish leaders that were called, that got bombed, and took them over across the river to Sighet and locked them up and beat them, because they knew they had money and they wanted to squeeze out. One day my uncle comes with 2 policemen, the Hungarian field policemen had feathers in their head. And they came and he dug up, I remember, in the yard, something, and gave it to us. Okay? And then he was deported right to Birkenau, Auschwitz. Then about a week later, they started to ship us out. We had to go to the railroad, and they pushed you in an open cattle cart, and they had just these little windows in it, and we were told by the Judenrat. The Judenrat was the committee handling the Jewish affairs in Budapest, that since the Hungarian men are on the front fighting with the Germans, they need workers, and they take us to factory to work. And if this is only to work, and we knew the war is coming to an end, we all went like sheep, because we had enough connections to be hidden by a boy. Plus, from where I come, if you went into the woods, it took you 3 days before you saw daylight. And even the Germans wouldn't go there. So it wound up, they took us by train we were riding, finally we came to Kassel. Kassel is the end of the Hungarian location, and there before they go into Slovakia, and there the Germans took us over. I don't know, when we were riding, no food, nothing. We had little kids there, and I had my aunt, when finally she saw a place where the German are carrying soldiers and all kind of equipment. So she spoke a very good German, because in her town where she was born, they had Schwabs. The Schwabs were Germans, and they had their own colony in the middle of the world and maintained their German language. They didn't blend in. So she asked him for water, and he answered politely, he said, pretty soon you'll get water. Pretty soon we've pulled into Birkenau. Birkenau was an arch, a brick arch, and it said, Arbeit macht das Leben frei, work makes you happy, and the train pulled in there. As the train pulled in there was the Canadians. There was Jews who bluffed the Germans as their Canadian citizens. So the Germans deported them anyhow, and they gave them the job. So they opened up the train, and you heard all loud music. And the German SS were hollering, raus means out. Now, if you ever been in a slaughterhouse, you'll see they scream, they whip the animal. Why? The animal shouldn't be able to see or think. Not all animals got brains like pigs. Pigs are very smart. See? And when it comes, as soon as they smell blood, you got to beat them. The Germans done the same philosophy. See? Now you couldn't think, but they lined you up, left, right. They called out, adults, go to the right, women, children, old people to the left. Because now we didn't know what it is, so I was not a hero. I just got lost from my mother. I didn't have a father that I did. My mother, my older brother was more obedient child. He was taller than I had for me. He stayed with my mother. See, once you went in the right side, you couldn't go back. They wouldn't let you there, because they were all the time afraid if you can disturb something, people are going to start to run and they'll make trouble. So I wound up on the right side. I went through with the adults. They took you, you got undressed like you were born. Then if you had hair, they shaved you, including women. They were bald-headed. You went through a shower, and they sprayed you with some chemicals, and then they gave you the strike clothes. After that, they took us, there was different camps, A, B, C, D. They took us to Camp C. And there was also a Zwillinglager, at least for twins. And at that point, one side was women, there was 2 rows of barracks. One side was the women, one side for men. I was a little boy yet, 13 years old, I never was away from home. See, all of a sudden I'm in a place with old men dressed with striped clothes. I started to cry, I want to go to my mother. Well, then finally, some of them, the older fellas were dead, turned around. He said, you see that chimney burning 20 foot in the air? This is where your mother is. Well, I turned around and cursed him, you're no good. And then later I found out that it's true. So, meantime, all the Hungarian Jews transport that came in, I was one of the early transports. And with each transport, there was some kids smuggled their way through. Once they were in camp, they kept them. Now in the camps, industry came from different locations. Like one time they came to clean up the Warsaw ghetto. You know, at the revolution, they had to clean it up. So they never wanted to take children. So they gave us some work inside. We accumulated 26,000 kids, 13, 14, 15 years old. Mengele Yamach Shemoy, didn't want to kill us all, so he put up a selection. And before he set it out, he let out a rumor, the weak children are going to go to a kartoffel farm, a potato farm. Well, at least we can have what to eat. And they put up a height from wood, boards. You have to take your shirt off. And if you have some flesh on your bones, and you reach the height, you went one side, and if not, you're the other side. Well, I was not tall, and I didn't have much meat on my bones because I'm big shouldered. They also sent me to the left side, but they didn't have a guard there protecting it, real enforcing it. So all of a sudden, an urge came up on me. Now, I don't want to go to a kartoffel farmer. I want to stay here. So I snuck myself through, and I made it. The next selection came Erev Yom Kippur. Erev Yom Kippur, we got selected again. And for my time, we were 6 or 8 boys. There was 2 brothers, Mendel and Alter. Never will forget him. Mendel was the older one, Alter was the younger one. Well, we got selected, but I made it to the right. We came back. It was already dark. The stars were already out, and we ate a piece of sliced bread. And if you heard the crying that came out in that night from these children, sometimes I wonder, and the Rebbe Shalom will forgive me, if there is anything in reality. Therefore, if you come across a person who went through what I went through and don't believe, don't not condemn him. It's very, very hard. Next day, the kids who went to the left side were in a separate barrack, guarded. They couldn't go in and out. But we got an hour, we could go out. The kids already knew where they're going. And we were talking to each other, I'll meet you in the salami factory. We all knew sooner or later we're going to wind up there. So that Alter was locked up in the barrack going to the crematorium. Mendel was his brother, and we still could talk to them through the cracks. So poor Alter was crying, Mendel magate mich verbrennen. They're going to burn me to death. Mendel couldn't take it. He went over to the guard to say, exchange me. Mendel went to the crematorium, Alter made it. And then I was still in Birkenau. Nobody wanted us kids. Then Lodger Ghetto came in. Lodger Ghetto came, maybe 5% was saved because they were so skinny, tissue and bone, that they all went to the gas chamber. So the Germans run out of resources. So they needed horses or children, working people to go to work in Gleiwitz. Gleiwitz is a city in Schleswig. It's Poland today. So they came in and grabbed 56 kids, and I was one of them. I think it was Sukkot. I still had record of that. And they tattooed us right there. As soon as we left, they gave you a tattoo. And the kid who got one number before me is alive too. And then they loaded us up of a dump truck with an old German Cessnas, and they took us to Gleiwitz 3, because they had 4 camps in that city. Put us in barracks. The next morning we went to work. Well, the Germans were building factories, and they didn't have the equipment what we have today. They do have it, but they didn't have enough. So when you put a building, taller the building is, heavier load, further down you got to go down with the footing. Okay? And this was an industrial building for making cokes, from coals, they burn it and makes coke, and that makes steel. We didn't have a crane to do it. So what they did, we started here and dug 5 foot down. Then the next full 5 foot down was thrown it up to this one, this one, this one, until we get level, and we dug it down to 15 feet. And then it got cold. We couldn't do nothing. So we are unloaded cement. You know, bags of cement, and I couldn't carry a bag of cement. I put it on my back and I crawled on the floor. And then when you put buildings, concrete buildings, that the water remains in the cement for 60 days. And if it gets cold, it freezes, then you could say Kaddish after the building. So what we had to do then, we had big open fires underneath, and that kept it warm. All of a sudden we started to hear explosions. That means the Russians got close. They took us all. It was snowing, coming down, big chunks, not like here. And we were marching. I don't know, I tell you, where we were marching. Came at night, they dumped us in a hay barn. In the morning, out, and they went around poking the hay with their sword to make sure there's nobody there. And we walked another 2 days, and we got to a point where there was 10 or 12 railroad tracks. I figured out it's Breslau, that was the capital of Silesia. They loaded that up on open cars, you know, the half cars. When we started out, we were packed like sardines. You couldn't move. Full of people. And the only food we got is from heaven when it snowed. And as the train moved, we were carrying around us from camp to camp, and nobody had room for us. When we passed through Czechoslovakia, the Czechs threw us bread, and we all jumped to grab it, so we killed each other. Now, the kids nobody could stand forever on their 2 feet. You collapsed, and you fell on the ground. Once you fell on the ground, they trampled you. But we kids were a little bright already, and self-survival teaches you a lot of things. We made a system. Once I go down, they stay up. As soon as I wake up, they pull me up, and that's how we made it. After 3 weeks, we finally got accepted in Oranienburg. This is 20 kilometers from Berlin. But then I already could take a walk in my freight wagon. As soon as the person died, we threw him outside. Except we left a couple they've used for pillows. We got the Oranienburgs, they put us in a big hangar for airplanes to stay there. And we slept on snow, and they gave us food. Dirty lice all over us. A shower. Didn't even know exists, a shower. Then the Russians came close to Berlin. We heard the guns, Katyushas already again. They moved us again. This time they moved us to a real nasty camp where mostly of them were German hoodlums, German gangsters, Flossenburg. I still remember the camp. It was a mountain, and the barracks were in the mountain. And all the Jews they took there, and these Germans, they were sadistic. They enjoyed to see somebody bleed. So they used to take and beat the Vegh on the head and see him bleed. But I was lucky. In my barrack I had 4 Russian war prisoners. And they protected me. And then we were there, and they took us out for work. And if you went to work, you got a slice of bread at 10 o'clock. Look, a slice of bread was, went there. All of a sudden, 3 weeks, we didn't get any food because this was closer to the Martin zone. The Martins were already in Nuremberg. We didn't get any food. It was, the camp was surrounded, tight. You couldn't go in and out, but inside you could do anything you want. Well, I was real skinny. I slid myself through a little fence in the back of the kitchen where the SS kitchen was. And there was the garbage in there. And they had all these bones, marachbenen. And I took them and chewed them, and that kept me going for 3 weeks. And then they called out, all Jews must report. They're taking the Jews again. They took us walking down to the railroad, set us up in an open train again, and in each wagon they had 3 assessments. The wagon started to move, the assessment sat down and they'll eat breakfast. We didn't have any food for 3 weeks. Well, but the Rebbeinu Shalom says, Gabriel, the Malach, American planes, they ran out like a lightning. They run, we run too. But I crawled back and helped myself for breakfast. I took a can of blutwurst, a can of margarine, a loaf of bread. And I ripped that can of wurst over with my own fingers. I had a good meal. Somebody came over to me, give me some. I said, go dead if you want it. If you don't want it, don't eat. So maybe I wasn't nice, but that's it. We were not nice. We were more like animals. But the guy said to me, threatened me, he's going to report me. And after the planes gave that, everything quieted down. They started again to move us. The planes came back. So finally you realize they cannot ship us by plane. Then I realized he's going to report me. I took my jacket and turned it inside out, my hat inside out. Maybe it's going to work. And I went into another wagon. You know, as they went through every wagon, is this him? Is this him? Help me. Now he didn't recognize me. So I survived. So we started the march, and it was April. It was raining, and raining. As soon as you start to walk already tipsy, they took the rifle butt and hit you in the head and shot you and kicked you in the ditch. You know, there's a little ditch where the rainwater goes on next to the road. I don't know if they don't have it in America. See, okay. And out from about 1,200 people, and most of the people walked and they dragged themselves. I don't know why I made it. I don't know, but I made it until the last minute. Finally, last night we took us and put us in a hay barn. The Gestapo was sleeping there in top, a nice comfortable place. And us, we put one in another. So I was laying on an older fellow, and somebody was laying on me. And that older fellow kept pinching me. I couldn't hit him. He's bigger than I am. He's going to hit me back. So the only weapon I knew I had, I could cry. I woke up the Gestapo, the soldier. He pulled me out and beat me with his rifle butt on my head. This is the 2 corners I got here. This is not from that. My head blew up like that. Well, I knew I can't walk no more. I said, I know it's coming. We started to march. All of a sudden, I see the Gestapo laying himself down on the ground and disappearing. And all of a sudden, I see white tanks are crawling. With white star tanks. What did I know? What white star, blue star. Well, I'm stuck in the middle of the field. I don't know where to go. You gotta remember again, talking to a kid who was never away from the house, and all of a sudden he's stuck in Germany in the open. So right away, you're hungry, you're looking for bread. So some of the houses were burning. So I went over to a woman, she's trying to move her furniture, give me some bread. She said, help me. I helped her with one piece, and then I cleaned out all the bread. And then I left it. So I took my pants and tied the bottom up like that and filled it up with bread. So then I didn't have where to go. So it was an older fellow, I don't even know, I tell you who he is and where he is, had pity on me and took me with him. Then the American Red Cross came, or the MPs, And they took us to Schwandorf. That was a city not far from that, and they gave us rationing card like the Germans, and gave us, made Germans give us a room. And we were living there. But they also had a lot of Russian war prisoners in that area. And these Russian war prisoners used to take me and other kids and put them on a wagon with a machine gun. I didn't know what I'm doing, and went into these German towns and robbed them. The MP locked me up and another kid. The Red Cross came, what are you going after him? They released us. Finally, they got so tired of that whole mishmash, they took all the Russian war prisoners, including us, loaded them up on trucks, took them over to Leipzig. Leipzig was already the Russian zone. When you got to the Russian zone, you didn't get nothing. They put you on a train, and from there you went back to Russia. On that train, you know, what would take 2 days, took 2 weeks, because each time the train had to stop to let the military train coming in. So we didn't get any food. The Russians are not a little better, see. But I, as a kid, when I came to a big city and the train was stopped there for 2 weeks, for 2 days, I went around begging for bread, and most of the people gave me. We went from Prague we got to Bratislava. Bratislava was the capital from Slovakia. When I got off the radar there's a line of Russian soldiers. They didn't bother me because I had nothing. They couldn't take nothing away from me. So I heard some of them holler, Amcho, Amcho, Amcho. I turned around, you're Jewish? Yes, you're. They took care of me. These Russian soldiers took care of me. They gave me bread. So then from there, I took the train to Budapest. Free of charge. They didn't charge me. As a matter of fact, my kids, my girls came to me, Daddy, we want to go to summer camp. So I said, go. Says, we need money. I said, what kind of camp is that? I went to camp free of charge. Okay. From there, I went to Budapest. In Budapest already, they had the joint, giving us food. The Czechoslovakian council gave us 500 pangies. That was, I don't know what it was today. And I stayed there for a while, and it was summertime. They had nice parks, and we slept right on the benches, you know. And during the day, we went and got a meal. All of a sudden, I got an urge, let me go home to my hometown. Let me see if anything alive. I remembered I had to take the train. There's 2 stations in Budapest, the Teleki and another one. I had to take the Teleki. The Teleki went east, and the other one went towards Austria. I went there, the train took about 12 hours, and got off at a point, and from that point I had to take another train to my town. And from my town, from the train, I had to walk about 2 miles to the town. I came to go and recognize me that I was not a Jew. They gave me to eat, and they told me one Jew with his family survived. He was a Bulgara, and he took his family and went to the mountains and hid there and said, I was born here and I'll die here. And he survived with his 2 kids and wife. So he's moved to Sigurd, where there's plenty of houses, Jewish houses empty. So I went to him, and I was living with him. Then my uncle survived, and he came back to the hometown. And he started to gather this, he started to sell a couple pieces of property here and here. And he was very, very religious. He cried every day when he lost his family. And he forced me to start putting on tefillin. I needed tefillin like you need a hole in your head. All right, started with tefillin, and I was his cook, his shamus. So one time I had to go and shecht a chicken. So in the next town, they said the shoichet is there. I got there, I missed the shoichet. I wonder, they think they twist that chicken's head off, they caught me. I need a shoichet. So I had to go from there again to Sigurd. It's walking by feet, it's a long walk. So when I crossed the river to the Romanian side, the Russians didn't bother me as a kid and carry a chicken. They were laughing, again, shit. So, and then the Russians took that piece away from Czechoslovakia and made part of the Ukraine. The reason for it is not, it's a very poor Appalachian area, very poor, has no industry, the ground is no good, you can't raise nothing. The only thing we had is apple orchards, they get the best apples in the world. But they wanted to have a border with Hungary, because these Hungarians cannot be tamed down. First, you could never trust them, because all the time they're going to do whatever you want them to do. Then you have the choker on their neck. But as soon as you take it off, they're revolved. So my uncle realized, we got to get out of here. So the first thing, we made contact with the border police in the Chalmik. That means the captain was a half a Jew. So you give him X amount of vodka. So when they changed the border guard, the new guard who comes in must shoot a fire, a revolver or a rifle, and the other one shoot back, and that's why they know. So he delayed it for an hour, and we could cross the river. It was pretty cold water that time. The guy who was supposed to carry me dropped me. We got on the other side, on the Romanian side. Romanians are known for thieves, and they are thieves. They were there to, they took everything away from the adults. Me, they said, get the hell out of here. I said, I got no place where to go. I'm not interested. All right, I wound up in Sighet. In Sighet, there was a Jew had already a little restaurant, and I ate there. And then, normally, when we went from Sighet to Budapest, the train crossed the river into the Czech side, and then went for about 40 miles until it crossed the river again, the Tisza, and went into Hungarian side. But with the Russian, you couldn't do that. So if you have to go from Sighet to Szatmár, you had to go through the mountains. And there's no train in the mountains. So I hitched a ride with Russian soldiers. They were drunk, and they slid, and it was winter, and they took me, they even give me to eat. What they ate, dogs eat that food, a piece of dried hard bread with solona. You know what solona is? Grease from a pig. And then you wash it down with a glass of vodka and then a glass of water. When we got to Szatmár, where Vegh was the roof, there was all Jewish detectives there. Again, they took all the adults, whatever they had left over, took it away and locked them out, because they knew they got hidden in their shoes, money. Again, I had no place where to go. Nobody wanted to know from nothing. So after they cleaned them up, you know, a couple of days, they took everything away from them. They got released. So from there, we went back to Tisza, called the border with Hungary, and you cross the border. And from there, from Hungary, we took a train. There's no wind, there's no nothing, and the train went X amount of miles, and that's the end of it. So from there, we had to walk miles until we got to another location where there's another train. And I had about 20 pounds of salt on my shoulder. The salt came from the area where I was born, and Hungary doesn't have any salt. I used to go on the farms, knock on the Malka. When you want some salt, we trade and give them 2 cups of salt for bread. Until we got to the point, we took the little train. The little train took us to Vegh. Vegh is where the Yismach Moshe was roof, and for where the title bombs are coming. So Vegh was the border. The big part was Hungary. The little part was Czechoslovakia. In the meantime, it was cold, so that we slept in an open house. We had a fire in the middle, open fire, no windows. And I only had a jacket, so you cover yourself up with a jacket, and then your feet freeze, you put it on the feet, and you keep moving. Finally, we found somebody who's going to cross at the border. They're all liars, thieves. Took us to the border, and they got paid and disappeared. No. From all the people who got caught, I got caught. In the meantime, these adults put in cigarettes in my bag. In Romania, cigarettes were cheap, In Hungary, in Slovakia, cigarettes was the big business. They took the 2 cartons of cigarettes away from me. National, that one ain't from the cigarette. And what can I do? I cried. So he says, get the hell out of here. See the train coming? Get on that train. I got on the train, and that train took me to Kasha. And from there I had to go. I had another uncle in Mykolaiv. I don't know how I got there. I got off and found my uncle's house. I don't even know it Atayomazeh. Well, my uncle had a lot of money because I dug it up myself at home to give it back to them. His brother gave it back to him. But he had a wife, Amar Shas. She ate me up alive. As soon as my uncle turned away, she took the bread away. I used to hang out until 11 o'clock on the street not to have to face him. So my uncle knew that what the heck is named the Rebbetzin from Hineni. Jungreis was a roof in that town. So my uncle went to talk to him. So he told him his brother-in-law, Nitra Roof, opened up Nitra Yeshiva again. So my uncle took me and dumped me there in Nitra. That's the last time he saw me and the last time I saw him. When I got to Nitra, Nitra didn't suffer long because they were there until the last minute. In the last minutes they ran into the mountains and most of them survived. See, and the houses were there, the Smethers was there, and the joint took care of us. What is it? Fed us coffee and bread. Once a week the bread was there. And we were animals. We killed each other. We're kids from different things. And don't forget, I was a Unterlander. That means my lower class. They from Oberland, they're a higher class. See, that's Yiches. And Rabbi Yoina Forst, he survived in Stresenstadt in a wheelchair. He was a Talmud from Lublin. He was in charge. There was the Mashgiach, and he started little by little to pull this string tighter. See, in the beginning, that's all we had to do, daven. Then you could do anything you want. Then we had, so that winter, we learned Masechta Bruches, and I knew it Baal Peh. And after that, we had to learn and perform. But the anti-Semitism got so strong in Slovakia that these goyim to come at night, try to break in to hurt us. We were also not innocent. We hooked up electric to the gate. See? Okay? So, in the meantime, you know, was to put a bucket of water on the door, come open up in the bucket, and I said, well, wild people now. So the joint realized we have to do something with us. So they took us to Prague to get passports. So my town was already in Ukraine. By the time they'll get my passport, Mashiach will be there. So they went into Nitra to the city hall and got birth certificates. They got certificates for kids who never came back. So they gave me a birth certificate, Aaron Pollack. This is where the Aaron comes in. There's no such a thing as Aaron. Okay. So then, the American wouldn't let us in. And we had to move. The joint came back, we can't go no place because we were too skinny. We have to get Luftveränderung, there's a fresh Luft, air. So they leased a barn from a Graf. A Graf, it means a prince has a big place with a stable. The stable was clean as gold. And this is where we were, and we went with horse and wagon to a place where we got a can of milk, you know, and supposed to take care of this. Well, in Europe, you know, they have a custom that every crossroad, they put Yoshka up there. And when the boy comes, he bells down and big storm and so the Cheskel Deutsch, he's alive, didn't like it. He took a rock and hit that damn thing. crushed it. And these peasants found out. They got together, they're ready to go killing the kids. The priest in that town came in and warned us not to sleep inside. In the meantime, Sunday morning, I went for a ride. All the time I used to go for a ride with somebody else and get in trouble. The Ezra Berkovich, went to pick up the milk. And after the go to church, in Europe, they all come out on the public street and they're hanging out there because most of them live in the mountains. Well, as soon as I saw the wagon with Ezra, they beat the heck out of Ezra, tripped over the wagon. I was so little, I got bad and nothing happened to me. Came back, the priest came, he calmed them down, and everything was okay. Then they couldn't find a place where to ship us. America wouldn't let us in. They're supposed to ship us to Tangier because the Reichmans were there and they had connections. While we were traveling from Prague, from Slovakia, from Nitra to Prague, these Slavs, all Slovakians also tried to hurt us. So on the way, we got to Paris, and they stationed us in a Hotel de Niles. There was no heat yet, it was cold. The only thing, we had plenty of their bread. Oh, and the bread is delicious. Long sticks, it tastes good. See, and at night, they let us out for a walk. We were kids, and they were chaperons, controlling our life. At that time, I don't know if I knew how to read. Dov Gruner was captured by the English and was found guilty and they're supposed to execute him. We were kids, just came out from the camps and said, no Jew is going to be executed. So we snuck away and we signed up with the Irgun. Irgun had a recruiting station. Nitrorov found out about it and he didn't want to lose the meal ticket because we were a meal ticket for them. And he never let us out. In the meantime, the Robert Weissmandl Oliver Shalom was already in America. He came up with a scheme. And the scheme worked. Since Europe destroyed all the yeshivas, so he has to bring over young boys to American yeshivas to study to be rabbis. So to do that, you must find a school who will sponsor you. A university this. So Mendelovich, Oliver Shalom from the Sifta Torah Vadaz, he signed for us. So we got all visas for students to come to America. We came to America, you got to check out the border, the visas. So I go there with my brother on paper, Shlomo Pollack. He's red-headed, and I was blonde. Yeah, the guy says that he knows this is false. So I wound up in Ellis Island. So in Ellis Island, they took us in front of a judge, and just like, what am I going to do with these kids? Close your eyes. So the joint picked us up, took us back to the yeshiva where the rest of the kids were. In the meantime, they bought a building outside Somerville, South Branch, next to the Rabitan River. We were there for about a year. And for the first week, we got up every night, 2 o'clock, and we ate hot dogs, salami, middle of the night. We were chayes. And the joint gave us the best food you could buy. So therefore, I'm still contributing money to the federation, because the federation, each federation chipped in a certain amount of money to the joint. That's why it's called joint. And after that, we really didn't know, even the leadership didn't know, how to live a normal life. We stayed there and the place was too small. So they started to look for a different place. And the Vegh Weissmodel didn't want to take us into the city. Now, he had plans to make chicken farmers out of all of us. At that time, you only needed 5,000 birds to make a comfortable living. Until Texas opened up, and Texas put them all out of business because it was loaded with German Jews and violent. So they found an estate in Westchester, New York, and Mount Kisco, the Brewster estate. The kids didn't want it, and it was $125,000. I was very close to the Vegh Weissmodel, that's why I know these stories. The Vegh raised $25,000. You still need $100,000. The Vegh was a great mathematician. He figured out, you know, the code, the Bible code, was the Vegh without a computer. How many chitten the parochas had, all these things. So he got a book on mathematics with Professor Johnson. These professors must publish books. If not, they lose their professorship on mathematics. Vegh got a look on it and caught him with a couple of mistakes. So he called Mr. Johnson, made an appointment, wants to discuss mathematics. Very good, he comes in, he shows him. And he learned English from a dictionary, by the way. Didn't speak normally words. Then he said to him, look, this is not my intention. My intention is a different kavana. He was a financial advisor to a guy by the name Rogozin. Rogozin was a millionaire. At that time he had textile factories all over the world. His father was a Malamed, Yankiv Yosef Yeshiva on this side. That's the only yeshiva he supported. So Mr. Johnson talked them in. This is kids. They want to learn trade, farmers, and that time the Jews, there's a Jewish agricultural society. They help you to become farmers. So he was interested in it. He's going to lend us $100,000. He lent us the $100,000, and we bought the place. The place was a beautiful place. Had a garage house, a gate house, a farmhouse, a main house. And the main road going up to the main house was on top of the mountain, had electric lights all along. They had an indoor tennis court, a swimming pool, their own pumping station. It didn't take long. There was no more electric boats in there. Okay, so we took possession of that place, and Vegh Weissmodel tried to make a chicken farm. At that time, we did have 3,000 chicken. We had some cattle. We were working the ground. One time, in the middle of Yom Kippur, the Schwarze didn't show up to milk the cows. He took his dollars off. Now we don't have to daven, we go milk the cows. I milk the cows on Yom Kippur. The only thing you can't use the milk. So this is what I wound up in Nitra. Nitra is still existing today. And it's all dominated by Satmar. If I go in there, they wouldn't need. But they still, my name is still mentioned there. And this is my life history until I came to America, and then I moved to Philadelphia. And I got to Philadelphia, the stones were even trefer. And I had no relatives here at all. And I raised 5 kids. Everyone is better than their father. And they raised wonderful children. They're all religious. And that is my accomplishment. The rest is all nonsense. And now I'll give you a bruchat, you girls. You should be mitzliach. You're finishing high school. Whatever you go and learn, you should learn something that you could contribute something to Klal Yisrael, because there's so many nebuchach, poor people between the Jews. I mean, and we got to help them somehow. Even so, they're doing the wrong things. They never try to help themselves, but you got to have pity on their children. Their children are innocent. And that's chus, you'll be matzliach and have me kosher and Pesach.